Hello, this is Nicole and welcome to Nicole T. ToReLi. Today I'm going to be bringing you guys a ToReLi top 10 based around one of the 3 passions that this channel is all about. That's right everyone, today's top 10 is my top 10 most favorite anime. Now the reason I wanted to do this top 10 is because I wanted to tell you guys what I'm really interested in as far as anime goes. I feel like when you know someone's top 10 favorite anime, it really tells you a little bit more about them and helps you get to know them better. But please keep in mind that this is all based on my personal opinion, which means that just because it's different from yours isn't necessarily a bad thing, it just means we have different opinions, and that's awesome. That's what makes a community fantastic. So if you do have a differing opinion, that's great, but please remember to be respectful of mine, and I'll be sure to be respectful of yours. So for now, let's get started with my top 10 most favorite anime. Alright, coming in at number 10 is an oldie but a goodie, Magic Knight Rayearth. Magic Knight Rayearth was the first official series done by Clamp, and the anime aired between 1994 and 1995. The first series consisted of 20 episodes that are available in English and Japanese, so you can watch it in both languages. The story of Magic Knight Rayearth follows 3 girls, Hikaru, Fu, and Umi, who, while on a school trip to Tokyo Tower, get transported to the magical world of Sephiroth. While there, they meet Master Mage Clef, who bestows upon the girls magical powers and armor, and tells them they have been summoned there in order to find the 3 rune gods and save the Princess Emerald from the evil High Priest Zagato. Princess Emerald is the pillar of Sephiroth. This means that every day she prays and it keeps the world of Sephiroth from falling apart. Without her daily prayers, the world is doomed to fall into darkness, and it's up to the girls to help save the princess from the clutches of the evil Zagato. The reason I love this anime so much is because I'm a huge fan of fantasy, and this anime has everything you would expect in a fantasy. It's got a female blacksmith who makes sword using magical materials. You have 3 girls who get magical powers and magical armor and go on a magical journey to help save a princess who is there to solely keep the world from falling to pieces. You've got your bad guy who honestly is trying to do what he thinks is best but is doing it in the worst way possible, and it's just fun and entertaining. Like, none of the characters are boring, they're all interesting, they all have a purpose, and it's really hard to hate the series just because it's so fun and exciting and good. If you're not a fan of English dubs, I wouldn't recommend watching it in English just because it was the 1990s and English dubs weren't that great back then, but if you really don't mind, I would definitely recommend watching it in English because it's fun and exciting and really cheesy and fantastic. And overall, this anime series is great for anyone who loves a good fantasy. And at the end of this series, my overall favorite character ended up being Fario, who's a character that gets introduced a little further into the series, and I'm not going to say too much about him just because it kind of spoils a little bit about who he is and what happens to him, but he's really cool. I really like his design and personality, and something about the rascals just makes me smile. I don't know why. But either way, if you're really interested in fantasy, definitely check out Magic Knight Rayearth because it will be a great anime to watch. Coming up at number 9 on my list is the anime Romeo X Juliet. Romeo X Juliet was an anime that aired in 2007, has an English dub and a Japanese sub, and has 24 episodes overall. Set in the fantastical world of Neo Verona, Romeo X Juliet is a loosely based anime adaptation of the famous Shakespearean play Romeo and Juliet. After the Capulets are murdered by the evil Lord Montague, the final remaining Capulet daughter, Juliet, is rescued and hidden away from his evil clutches. Being too young to remember her past, Juliet grows up to be a normal everyday girl, except for the fact that she has to masquerade as a boy named Odin for her own protection. Rather than sit at home and not do anything, she ends up taking on the disguise of the Red Whirlwind and helps protect the citizens of Neo Verona from the corrupted soldiers of the Montagues. During one of her escapades, she ends up getting actually rescued, ironically, by Romeo Montague, and from there the destinies of these 2 star-crossed lovers are forever intertwined for the rest of the series. If you're a fan of Romeo and Juliet, I highly recommend this anime. It is really good. It's probably one of the better adaptations of a Shakespearean play that I've ever seen, and I really liked how it kind of took the story but made its own fantastic, different twist on it. If you're an overly huge fan of Romeo and Juliet, you might not like it just because there's a lot of changes that happen to the story, but overall it is an absolutely beautiful anime to watch. I highly recommend watching it in English just because the way that they've written this English script is really interesting because they've thrown in a lot of Shakespearean language into it, and a lot of the scenes they actually did Shakespearean quotes to. For example, there is actually a balcony scene in the anime, and Juliet actually says, "Wherefore art thou, Romeo?" and they do that whole thing. And it was just really cool to watch, and I really liked it. So if you're looking for an anime that you're going to absolutely love and have it rip your heart out because of how sad it is, then definitely watch Romeo X Juliet, because it is an amazing anime. And after watching the whole series, my actual overall favorite character in the story was Tybalt. Again, I can't say too much about him because it causes major spoilers. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. If you know Romeo and Juliet, it's Tybalt, it's not a big deal. But trust me, Tybalt in Romeo X Juliet is way cooler than Tybalt in the original play. He is fantastic and I love him. So yeah, definitely watch this show. It's really good and I couldn't recommend it any more than I already have without kind of rambling, which is what I'm doing right now. But either way, great anime, definitely watch it. Coming in at number 8 is Code Geass Lelouch of the Rebellion and Code Geass Lelouch of the Rebellion R2. Now the reason I have both seasons on this list instead of having them separately is because, in my opinion, you can't really watch one without the other. Even though R2 is way better than this first season, it's really hard to watch the second season without having seen the first season first. So definitely watch both of them together in order to grasp the entirety of the series and story as a whole. Now the two seasons together have 52 episodes, they both have an English dub and a Japanese sub, and it aired between 2006 and 2008. Set in the future, Japan has been taken over by the great nation of Britannia and is forced to change its name to Area 11. The Japanese, stripped of their rights and freedoms, are now called 11s and are forced to try and make a living while the settled Britannian aristocracy lives comfortable lives all around them. Lelouch, an exiled prince of Britannia, poses as a student at a local school and, through a chance encounter with a mysterious girl named C2, gains a magical ability called Geass. Using this newfound ability, Lelouch plans a rebellion in order to take Britannia down once and for all. One of the main reasons this anime is on this list is because it has one of the best endings I've seen in an anime in a long time. I find a lot of anime that are this length, like 26 episodes a season or 12 episodes a season, usually end on a cliffhanger or open-ended, whether it's for interpretation or because they thought they were going to have a second season but never did, or because the manga is still ongoing and they caught up too fast, they just decided to end it. It just kind of sucks, because if it's written well, it's great, but if it's not, you kind of sit there annoyed and wanting more to happen. The beautiful thing about Code Geass was it has this beautiful ending that just closes everything and answers every question, and it leaves everything finished and complete, and it's absolutely beautiful to watch, because you never really see that anymore, and it's kind of actually really sad. But that's also one of the reasons why I say you really need to watch the second season after watching the first. In all honesty, I got really bored in the first season of Code Geass. It was really fun and interesting at the start, but then by the end of the series, I kind of didn't really care. I didn't care if Lelouch got captured, I didn't care if the Black Knights came and fell apart. I really could care less. And it actually almost stopped me from watching the second season because I didn't want to put myself through another 26 episodes of the same thing. So I'm kind of happy I changed my mind, because by the end of the second season, it changed everything, and Code Geass is now number 8 on my top 10 favorite anime. So if that's telling you anything, it's that if you're going to watch Code Geass, watch the first season, but definitely watch the second one, or else you're literally missing out on one of the best endings in anime history. Like, let's put it that way. So either way, Code Geass, amazing anime, and my overall favorite character was the adorable Princess Euphemia. I absolutely love her. Princess Euphemia Lee Britannia comes in about halfway through the first season. She's adorable, super cute. She reminds me of Lacus Clyne from Gundam Seed, who was my favorite character in that series, and everything about her is fantastic. And the one thing I liked most about her was, when you first meet her, you think she's a ditzy, like, pink-haired princess who doesn't really do anything and is locked away in her castle and needs someone to come save her, but she ends up becoming an activist for the 11s, and that's something that you don't really see in a lot of princesses and stuff like this, and I really admired that about her. She wanted to do something to help the 11s, she wanted to work to help the 11s, and she was willing to do whatever it took to do that, even if it meant having her family hate her for it. And that was really, like, inspiring, and I really liked that about her. Which is why you should also watch Code Geass, because the characters are fantastic. They're amazing. Lelouch is amazing. I love him. He's great. He's absolutely psycho, but that's why he's fun. And if you're going to watch it, I do definitely recommend watching it in English, because it does honestly have one of the best English dubs I've ever listened to. Johnny Young Bosch as Lelouch is absolutely phenomenal. Yuri Lowenthal as Suzaku is also amazing, and Michelle Ruff played Princess Euphemia. And she was fantastic too, so if you're going to watch it, definitely watch it in English, unless you are definitely 100% against English dubs, in which case I can't help you. But definitely check it out, because it is an anime worth watching. Coming in at number 7 on my list is the anime Samurai 7. Ironic. I like it. This anime had 26 episodes overall and aired in 2004. It does have an English dub and a Japanese sub, so that's definitely something to look forward to. Based loosely upon the famous movie by Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai, Samurai 7 tells the story of a small village with a large problem. Kanna Village is a village that's been ravaged by these mechanized bandits called the Nobuseri, who have been kidnapping their people and stealing their food. On the brink of starvation, the village's priestess, Kirara, decides to go out on a journey to find samurai and hire them to help protect the village from the Nobuseri. Accompanied by Komachi and Rikichi, and through many adventures, they end up gathering a group of 7 samurai of varying skill, who are out to finally destroy the bandits and the corrupted merchants who are behind their every move. The reason why I love this anime so much is because I'm actually a big fan of samurai stories, especially well-written samurai stories, and this just so happens to be a very well-written samurai story. The 7 samurai are interesting, and they have their own personalities and skills that they bring to the table, so you're never really bored watching them, especially with the way they interact with each other. The side characters aren't really all that interesting and a little bit bland, but they still bring an aspect to the show that you definitely need to keep the main group grounded, which is really important. The other thing I really love about this series is the fact that there's a really good mix of political intrigue and action, so you never really feel like you get bored watching it, because even though you have moments where you're watching all of these fuddy-duddy merchants talk about how they basically just want to rule the world, you have these moments where the samurai are fighting the bandits, or they're running from something, or they're meeting new people along the road. And it's really fun to watch, and it's really interesting, and the pacing of the show is really well done, especially considering it spans over 26 episodes. It's just a really good time, and if you're also a fan of samurai stories, I definitely recommend watching this one, because it's really good. The English dub is also really good, which is really nice, and I loved a lot of the people who were in it. My overall favorite character was Heihachi. He's absolutely adorable, and he's voiced by Greg Ayers, who is one of my favorite voice actors. So watching him in a role like Heihachi was simply fantastic. He's this cute little orange-haired guy who's honestly the techie of the group. He loves all things machines, and it's really cool to watch. He reminded me a lot of Donatello from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, who's also my favorite Ninja Turtle. So it kind of reminded me of that and brought me back to a place of my childhood, and it was just really fun to watch, and I really liked it. So if you like samurai stories, definitely check out Samurai 7. Coming in at number 6 on my list is the awesome ninja story Basilisk. Basilisk is a 24-episode series that came out in 2005 and has both an English dub and a Japanese sub. The story follows 2 warring ninja clans, the Iga clan and the Kouga clan, who are both a supporter of one of the sons of Hidetada Tokugawa as the next shogun. Though they absolutely despise each other, the 2 clans are actually preparing to sign a peace treaty due to the impending marriage of their next clan leaders, Genosuke Kouga and Oboro Iga. However, things change when each clan sends out 10 representatives of their clan to basically fight to the death over the possession of a sacred scroll. The ultimate prize at the end of the day is the annihilation of the other clan and the support of the Tokugawa government for the next 1,000 years. The reason this anime is on my list of most favorite anime is because it's really cool. There are so many different characters that all play a part, and they each have a special power that only they can use, and it's really awesome. There's a character who has the ability to control insects. There's a character that has the ability to suck blood through people's pores if she wants to, which is really creepy but really cool. There's a character who can't die. There's a character who's like a spider. Like, the list goes on and on. They each have a special ability that they bring to the table, and that's why watching them fight is really cool. Because you want to see who's going to win, because honestly you don't really know. Because both of the clans are really interesting and they all bring their own thing to the table. and it's really hard to judge. This story, I will say, is also loosely based on Romeo and Juliet, just because you have the two families who hate each other and the two who want to get married, but the family doesn't want them to get married, but they want to get married, so they try to get married and things just fall to pieces because someone makes a mistake and someone else makes a mistake, and it's just bad news bears all around. But either way, it's a really great series. The animation is really cool, because one of the things I like about it is the characters that are supposed to be pretty are very pretty, and the characters who are supposed to be ugly are really ugly, and it's kind of interesting to see because you rarely see a show that has characters that look the way they do, but still mesh together so well. It's really interesting and it's really fun to watch, and seeing how they fight against each other is just a really good time. So, again, if you really like ninjas and you really like watching ninjas kill each other in horrible ways, definitely check out Basilisk because it is fantastic. My favorite character of the series is actually a character named Kagero, and her magical ability, which is kind of hilarious, is every time she has sex with someone, her breath turns into toxic fumes and she kills them. It's kind of ironic because she actually wants to, be with someone, but she can't because the minute she gets intimate with anyone, she kills them. So it's really sad and kind of tragic, and I think that's one of the reasons why I like her, is because not only is her magical ability really cool and would be super useful, especially because she's like super pretty and uses it to her advantage, but it's also really sad because she basically kills anyone that she wants to actually get intimate and have a relationship with, and it kind of sucks, and I feel really bad for her. But either way, she's my favorite and I really like her, and that kind of gives you an idea of what to expect from the other characters in the series as far as powers and everything goes. And it also kind of shows you that this show is for a more adult audience just because of the themes and the gore and stuff that it has in it. But if you're a big fan of ninjas fighting one another for dominance and characters who are really interesting and have some really interesting abilities, definitely check out Basilisk because it's awesome. I also highly recommend watching Basilisk in English just because it is actually a really well done English dub. I believe Laura Bailey, if I remember correctly, plays Oboro, so that's already telling you that it's going to be a good time. But yeah, there's a lot of famous voice actors in there, so definitely check out the English if you want to. It's really actually very well done. Alright guys, we're halfway there. Coming in at number 5 on my list is the Tales of Symphonia, the animation Silveron arc, and Tales of Symphonia, the animation Tatheala arc. This is another one where I feel like you should really watch the first season and the second season together rather than, not watch one or the other, because they basically cover the entirety of the game Tales of Symphonia, which came out for GameCube and then was recently remastered for the PS3. So if you're a fan of the game, definitely check out the animation. The anime aired between 2007 and 2011 and has 8 episodes total. With it being an OVA, each episode is about half an hour long, so really it feels like you're watching a series that's much longer than just 8 episodes, which is really cool. As far as I know, there is no English dub for this series, so sorry guys, you're gonna have to watch it in Japanese if you want to see it. Like I said before, this is an anime series based on the game Tales of Symphonia, with the anime covering the story of the entire game, with half of it being in Silveron and the other half being in Tatheala. The story focuses on 2 worlds that are parallel to one another and must compete over the flow of mana or risk perishing and disappearing as we know it. Each world has a chosen, whose job it is to go on a journey of regeneration and restart the flow of mana into their particular world. Colette Brunel is the chosen of Silveron, and it's her turn to help save her world, which has begun to perish due to the flow of mana. She begins her journey with her friends Lloyd and Genus, her teacher Rain, and a mercenary for hire named Kratos, who has agreed to escort the chosen to the end of her journey. Through this journey, they meet lots of friends, lots of enemies, face many difficult trials, and throughout it all, try to learn why there are 2 worlds that are competing for each other, and see if there's a way to maybe save both worlds instead of only saving one. The reason why this anime is on my list is because it's actually based on my favorite Tales of game, Tales of Symphonia. I love the game a lot. I played it back when I was like 12 or 13 or something like that, and I immediately fell in love with it, and it's actually what sparked my love of JRPGs and the Tales of series as a whole. If you're a big fan of fantasy, I definitely suggest checking out this series because it is amazing and really well done. The animation for it is absolutely gorgeous, and the thing that I find most interesting about it is it's actually a very good adaptation of the game. I was a little worried when I found out that it had an anime just because I loved the game so much. I was afraid they might change too much or too little and try to make it too much the same without actually taking any like creative differences with it. But it actually ended up being an absolutely fantastic series, and one of the things I liked about it was it actually caused me to have a greater connection with the characters that I didn't initially get when I played the game. And that really changed the way that I played the game when I went back to play the PS3 remaster. And I think that's something that's really important, because character connection is really what makes a show amazing, and that's why I think people are really going to like this one. The characters are all interesting and unique, and they have their own part to play in the story and also bring their own story into the game that just overall make them better characters. And that's really something that is to be admired about this series, is the fact that the characters are so amazing and fun to watch. My personal favorite character of the series is Zealous Wilder, who's actually the chosen of Tetheala. He's a huge playboy, which is hilarious, and I just really like him because he's one of those characters where you see him and you think he's going to be a total goofball and always after girls, but he kind of has this air of he knows more than he's letting on, and he's actually a lot smarter than you think he is, and he pretty much knows everything that's going to happen before it does. And that's all I can really say about him without, spoilers again. For some reason I like the characters that are surrounded in spoilers, I don't know why. But if you like fantasy and if you're a fan of the Tales of series, definitely check out Tales of Symphonia. Coming up at number 4 on my list is The Story of Saiunkoku. The Story of Saiunkoku is an anime that's 39 episodes long and came out between 2006 and 2007. It has an English dub and a Japanese sub, but the English dub is actually only for Season 1. Season 2 never got an English dub, so if you want to watch that one, you gotta watch it in Japanese. Saiunkoku is a world that's split up between 8 provinces, each represented by a specific color. The Emperor of Saiunkoku, Ryukishi, has gained a reputation as being uninterested in courtly matters and flaunting his love for men a little too obviously to the rest of the court. Shude Hong is the main character of this series, and although she was born into the very important Ko family, she basically has no money and has difficulty trying to make ends meet. Shude's dream is to actually become a court official, but because she is a woman, laws state that she cannot legally become a court official, so instead she makes money by teaching at a local school near her home. One day, a high-ranking official comes to Shude's home and offers her a large amount of money to charade as the concubine of the emperor in order to entice him to take political matters more seriously. Shude, who is a fan of money and trying to make ends meet, agrees to do this on the spot. While at the Imperial Palace, she ends up finding out that the Emperor is not as lazy and stupid as she thought he was, and her dream of becoming a court official is revived. With the help of the Emperor, who has a newfound love for Shude, and the companions that she meets while she's at the Imperial Palace, Shude hopes that one day her dreams of becoming a court official can become a reality. If there was ever a series that had a female character that should be envied, it's definitely Story of Saiunkoku with Shude Hong. She is one of the best female characters I've ever seen in a series, and I absolutely adore her. Everything about her is admirable and is inspiring. She's smart, she's kind, she's funny, she's determined. Even though she has no money, she's one of the most generous people I've ever seen. And everything about her is just so well written and brought forward so perfectly that it's really hard not to like her and want to be more like her. She's interesting and fun, and I just really, really like her. And then one other thing I really like about her is the fact that even though she's the main character in a reverse harem anime, where basically you're expecting all of the guys to fall in love with her and her to pick one of them and just be like really awkward and cute and weird, she never really does. She wants to be a court official, that's all she's ever wanted, and she's doing everything in her power to work towards that, and leaving relationships to the wayside, which is something you never really see. And that's what I really liked about it, was the fact that it kind of took the whole reverse harem mold and flipped it on its head because they wanted to bring us a character that was everything we've wanted in a female character, and it's amazing, and I love it for that. And even though the Emperor does fall in love with her very quickly, that's not a spoiler, it happens right away and you see it coming, and he does all of these things for her and tells her that he loves her and everything, she always ends up turning him down because that's not what she wants in her life right now. I'm pretty sure in the series she's only about 16, and it's really admirable to see a girl who wants something more in her life than a relationship. And honestly, it's definitely something that you should check out just because of how amazing she is. There are 2 seasons of the anime. I honestly actually haven't seen the second season. I've been meaning to, I just keep putting it off. But the first season is awesome, and I really, really like it. The English dub is actually really, really well done. It's by Ocean Studios, which is a company out of Canada, so go Canada. And it's great. The voice actress that played Songo in Inuyasha plays Shude. Brad Swale, who played Light Yagami in Death Note, plays the Emperor. And there's just a whole bunch of really great talent, and it's an amazing series. So you should really watch it, because it's really good. My overall favorite character in the series is actually a character named Shinko. He is actually Shurei's uncle, but she doesn't know that, and he kind of keeps it a secret for their family's sake. But he's really funny, and he's fun to watch because he wants to be her favorite uncle, and the uncle that's always there for her, but he's not allowed to be, so he kind of just watches her from the shadows, which is kind of creepy, but it's also really cute that he cares about his family as much as he does. So, either way, Story of Saiunkoku, fantastic female characters, really interesting male characters that you don't actually kind of get bored of, which is really fun, and you should definitely check it out if you're interested in that genre. Coming up at number 3 on my list is Inuyasha and Inuyasha the Final Act. Again, I have a series that has the 2 seasons put together into one, and the main reason I'm doing this is because the ending of the first series of Inuyasha is absolute trash, and I hate it. But the ending of Final Act brings it all together, and it got a great HD upgrade, and it looks fantastic. So if you're going to watch Inuyasha, make sure to watch the whole thing, including the Final Act, because it really brings the story together. Overall, the 2 series together have 193 episodes and have both an English dub and a Japanese sub. The anime itself aired in 2000, and then the release of Final Act happened in 2010. Kagome Higurashi is a regular high school girl whose family lives on a plot of land that's also a shrine. One day, her world is turned upside down when a mysterious demon grabs her while she's standing outside of her family's well and drags her into the well. When Kagome climbs out of the well, she realizes that she's been transported 500 years into the past, into the feudal era, where demons run rampant. While there, she learns that she's the reincarnation of a priestess named Kikyo, whose sole purpose was to guard a sacred gem called the Shikon Jewel. Soon after that, she meets Inuyasha, the rough-and-tumble half-dog demon who wants to use the Shikon Jewel in order to become a full-fledged demon. After Kagome accidentally shatters the jewel, her and Inuyasha must travel together, meet new friends, and find the missing pieces of the Shikon Jewel before an evil demon by the name of Naraku can get his hands on them. Inuyasha will always hold a special place in my heart just because it's the first anime I ever watched where I realized that anime was something different from a regular cartoon. Before this, yes, I watched things like Sailor Moon, Beyblade, Pokemon, Digimon, Power Stone, things like that, but I always considered them to be just regular everyday cartoons that were made the exact same way every other cartoon I watched was, and it was nothing different. But Inuyasha changed that, because for the first time I watched a show where they did things like call each other bastard, and there was blood, and there was like kind of guts and swearing and bad things, and it really changed the way I looked at things, because at the time I was only a kid. So seeing that in a cartoon was something I had never experienced before, because I wasn't really allowed to watch stuff like that. So after seeing it, I kind of changed the way I looked at things like Inuyasha, and it taught me that anime was something different from a regular cartoon. It was made in Japan, sometimes it was for older audiences, and it really ended up making me who I am today and making me fall in love with anime as a whole. So I really owe Inuyasha a lot for that. All the nostalgia and bias aside, the show itself is actually pretty good. The first series has a lot of filler and the pacing isn't that great. especially considering the fact the manga is so long. But it's a great show to watch. You meet some really interesting characters that all bring their own thing to the table. We have some actually really strong female characters, which was really fun to watch. Because you have Kagome, who honestly doesn't really do much of anything. She's kind of pointless at... She basically becomes a Shikon jewel detector at points, and you kind of wonder why she's even there besides that. But you have characters like Sango, who uses her really awesome Hirai Coat's boomerang and takes things out because she's a demon slayer. And you have Kagra, who controls the wind and things like that. And it's really fun to watch, and the characters are really cool. And considering the fact this is an anime that came out basically in 2000, and that makes it more or less 16 years old, it ages very well. I actually just went back and restarted watching the series again, and I was blown away by how good the animation is considering how old it is. And that's something to be admired, because as much as I love shows like Magic Knight Ray-Earth, it hasn't aged well. But that's to be expected considering how old it is. But Inuyasha, I feel, is one of those series that will continue to be amazing no matter how old it gets, and that's really awesome and something that I really like about it. My favorite character of the series is actually Kouga, the wolf demon. I love everything about him. I think he's fantastic. He's actually one of my all-time favorite characters in an anime series. I love his confidence, I love how cocky he is, and I just really like the way that he treats people, especially when he likes them. The way he treats Kagome is probably the best thing I've ever seen. Koga's a great character. If you're going to watch this series, watch it in English. I'm just saying that right now. Like, I've never watched this series in any other language except for English, and the bits and pieces I've seen of it in Japanese, I hate. I love this series in English. It's really, really well done. The cast is one of those casts where they kind of start off a bit shaky with their characters, but within the first couple of episodes, they nail it on the head. Richard Ian Cox's Inuyasha is the only Inuyasha I will ever listen to because he's amazing at his character. And I'm really happy he came back for Final Act, since some of the original voice actors didn't, such as Monica Story, who honestly is my favorite Kagome. No one can play her as well as Monica Story can. The new girl did okay, but I still found myself missing Monica Story. And the dub is just so good. It's by Ocean Studios again. In case you haven't noticed, I really, really like them. I find they do a really good job with everything they do, which is really impressive. But definitely check it out in English, because it's fantastic. Like, I can't express that enough. Watch it in English, please. I beg you. Just do it. Just do it. And while you're at it, enjoy the series too, because it's a really good series. Coming in at number 2 on my list is another oldie but goodie, Rurouni Kenshin. Rurouni Kenshin is an anime that aired between 1996 and 1998 and has a total of 94 episodes. It has an English dub and a Japanese sub, and even though the English dub isn't as good as it could be, I refuse to watch it in Japanese. The only reason behind this is because in the Japanese, Kenshin is played by a woman, which normally isn't such a big deal when your character is a teenager. When your character is basically in his late 20s, early 30s, being played by a woman makes no sense. So I refuse to watch it because watching Kenshin being played by a woman is weird and I don't like it. That's mostly a personal preference, but Richard Hayworth, who plays Kenshin in the English dub, does such a good job as Kenshin. I refuse to watch in Japanese, and I never will. But either way, moving on to the story. Set during the Meiji era of Japan, Rurouni Kenshin is a story that follows Kenshin Himura, a wandering samurai who has made a vow to never kill anyone ever again. One day during his travels, Kenshin comes across a girl named Kaoru, who is the sole teacher and owner of the local Kamiya dojo. Thanks to a series of unfortunate events, Kenshin ends up helping Kaoru protect her dojo from a previous member who wanted revenge against the dojo and wanted to watch it burn. From there, everything changed. Kenshin's past as a legendary manslayer Batosai starts to catch up with him, and soon he finds himself facing past demons who are trying to make his life and the life of those he cares about a living hell. Using a special reverse sword style, Kenshin must fight or lose the ones that he considers most precious to him, and at the same time has to try and stop himself from reverting back to his old days of Batosai the Manslayer. For a very long time, this anime was actually my #1 favorite anime, and I really, really love the story. Like I said before, I'm a huge fan of well-written samurai stories, and this is, again, a very well-written samurai story. The characters are fun and interesting, and a lot of them are actually based on real-life people that existed back during that time period, which is really interesting to see because it brings some of the history into it as well. The animation starts off a little rough, but as the series progresses, it becomes very, very pretty to look at and really, really nice. The fights in the series are really interesting and really fun, and every single time Kenshin goes up against a new enemy, they bring something new to the table that you're not really expecting. The characters are all really interesting and unique, which is something I really like about the series, and the character design is one of the main reasons why I started liking the series in the first place. I started reading the manga a very long time ago, and then through that started watching the anime, and I really, really liked the anime for what it was. Even though by the end of it, it didn't really follow the manga as closely as I hoped it was going to, it was a really, really well done series, and I highly recommend it to anyone who wants to watch a really good period piece. Like I said before, please watch it in English. Even though the English dub is honestly the worst one on this list, Richard Hayworth brings a really strong Kenshin to life, and I really like that about him. His mix of the cute and happy Kenshin and then his darker Batou side are really, really well done, and they only become more apparent as the series goes on. The character's voice I hate the most is probably Kaoru's, which is really annoying because she's pretty much the main female character, but you kind of start to tune her out after a while anyways. So it really doesn't matter that much, but if you're going to watch it, please watch it in English. At least that's what I would recommend, because it's not the best, but it's better than the Japanese. Let's just put it that way. At least in my opinion. But either way, if you want a good period piece, definitely check out Rurouni Kenshin. Now, before I get to my number one on this list, I wanted to bring you all a couple of honorable mentions. These are anime that are really, really good series, but they just weren't good enough to make it into the top 10. So here are my 5 honorable mentions. Honorable mention number 1 goes to Fairy Tail. I love the story, I love the characters, I love the concept, everything about the series is great, it just wasn't good enough to make it into the list. Coming in at number 2 honorable mention is Beck Mongolian Chop Squad. Probably one of the best English dubs I've ever seen in a while, especially considering the fact the voice actors could act and sing, which is very rare these days. It's a great show and you should definitely check it out in English, but not good enough to make it into the list. Coming in at honorable mention number 3, Claymore. Lots of really awesome female characters, great story, but honestly by the end of the series I got kind of bored with it and I really couldn't take another episode of Rocky, and that's why this series didn't make it into the list. Coming in at honorable mention number 4, Trinity Blood. A really great vampire series if you want something that's a little more adult and a little more interesting and not really a love story. There is a bit of a love story, but it's not over the top and really stupid like a lot of other ones. So if you want something like that, I would definitely check it out. The animation is absolutely beautiful. The English dub is actually pretty well done, but overall wasn't good enough to make it into the list. And coming in at number 5 for an honorable mention is the show Mushishi. Mushishi is a gorgeous anime that has a fantastic English dub and amazing characters. It also plays up a lot of Japanese folklore, so if you're looking for a little education, be sure to check it out. It's a very interesting series, and I know a lot of people really, really like it. It can be a little slow, but if you're interested in watching a more chill out and relaxed anime, that's definitely one you should check out. And as awesome as it is, unfortunately it just didn't make it into the list this time around. And there you guys have it, 5 honorable mentions of really great anime that just unfortunately weren't good enough to make it into the list. So with that all said and out of the way, it's time to move on to the number 1 anime on my list. Coming in at number 1 and my overall favorite anime is Your Lie in April. Your Lie in April is an anime that aired between 2014 and 2015 and has 22 episodes overall. There is no English dub for it right now, but they were holding auditions for it about a year ago, so we might be seeing an English dub in the near future. After suffering a tragedy, Kosei Arima, a musical prodigy, loses the ability to hear himself play music and decides to quit playing piano forever. He instead spends his time writing music and living out his life in peace and tranquility. That all changes, however, when his friend Tsubaki has a proposition for him. One day, Tsubaki, who's one of Kosei's childhood friends, comes to him and asks him if he would be interested in going on a meet and greet with her. Tsubaki has a friend who has a major crush on their friend Ryota, and she wants to meet him and get to know him outside of school. Rather than get stuck as the third wheel while they're on their date, Tsubaki wants Kosei to come along so she'll at least have someone she can talk to while the two get to know each other. Kosei reluctantly agrees to go, and everything in his life has changed forever. He shows up at the meeting place before anyone else does, and ends up meeting a mysterious girl named Kaori Miyazono. He soon learns that Kaori is an incredible violinist whose sole purpose in life is to have people hear her music. And she also happens to be the girl that Tsubaki is introducing to Ryota. Upon learning who Kosei is, Kaori vows to make him play the piano once again, and to show him the beauty that the world of music has to offer. Thus begins a hectic journey for Kosei, filled with laughs, tears, and a lie told one day in April. Well, we made it. Here's the #1 anime on my list of top 10 most favorite anime. Where do I even begin to explain why I love this anime so much? The animation in it is absolutely gorgeous, and it's one of the best animated series I've seen in a very long time. The music is probably the best part of the whole series, and I actually have the whole soundtrack on my MP3 player, and it is amazing to listen to. I'm a really big fan of classical music, and hearing it played the way it is in this show is unbelievable. The characters are all unique and interesting, and honestly, I can't even tell you the amount of times that this series made me cry just because of how beautiful it is and how much I wanted the characters to get what they wanted in the end. I wanted them to succeed. I wanted them to be everything they wanted to be. I've never related or felt so bad for 14-year-old characters in my entire life, but they were all so fantastic. You had Ryota, who all he wanted to do was play soccer, but everyone expected so much of him and it was too much for him to handle. And you had Kaori, who all she wanted to do was play music and have people enjoy it and love it for what it was. And you had Kosei, who, God, Kosei, he was so sad and you just wanted him to be happy and see color and beauty of the world. And you had Tsubaki, who actually ended up being my least favorite character, but she was still so interesting and she wanted so many things in her life, but she didn't know how to go about it without having Kosei there. And oh my goodness, I could go on forever about how much I love this series. It made me laugh, it made me cry, it made me want to throw something at a wall because I couldn't handle the emotions that were coming through when I was watching it. I cried at almost every performance in it because it was so amazing to listen to. And it's just so good. You meet so many excellent characters that are so well written. And the manga that this series is based on actually won an award because of how great it is. It's a great series, and if you're going to sit there and watch a series, make sure it's Your Lie in April if you haven't already watched it, because it is everything that I've ever wanted in an anime. Great animation, great characters, great music, everything about it is just phenomenal, and that's why it's coming in at #1 on my list of top 10 most favorite anime. Honestly, if you're not looking for a slice of life anime with classical music involved, then don't watch it, but if you're ever in the mood, please give it a chance, because it'll honestly change your life with how amazing it is. This was the anime that knocked Rurouni Kenshin off of the #1 spot, and it was there for a very long time. So if that's any indication of how good this show is, there you go. You have it, and you should definitely check the series out when you have a chance. And that's it! Thank you all for joining me for my top 10 most favorite anime. If you don't quite agree with my list, that's perfectly fine. It's solely based on my opinion. So if you have a differing one, please tell me in the comment section below what your top 10 most favorite anime are. If you'd like, please check me out on Facebook and Twitter, where I'll be keeping you all up to date on everything that's going on with me as it happens. And if you like what you see, please support me on Patreon so that I can continue to bring you guys the best quality videos that I possibly can. So for now, this has been Nicole. Thank you all for joining me for Nicole T. ToReLi Top 10, and I will see all of you in the future. Bye!